Salutations, Imperial citizens and battle brothers. Welcome to my review for the new chapter approved 2025 to 2026 mission pack. Now, I will be structuring this review as follows. Number one, I will go over the new mission deck and discuss all of the relevant cards for matched play gaming. Then I will go through the tournament companion and talk a bit about every mission you can possibly play. Why did this take so long? First of all, I still don't have the physical deck in front of me. It is in the mail, and I should be getting it, I think, on Saturday this week. But I have still played a bunch of games. As you can see right here, I have played quite a number of some funny Warhammer 40k games. I played 5 games in total with 4 different detachments, all using the new cards, because I wanted to give everyone a proper overview over what all of the cards are and how the new format feels to play. And in order to do that, I will go straight in. So we are using a website. This one got linked on the competitive Warhammer Reddit not too long ago. It is GDMCA2025, and basically this website shows you every single card you can look at, and that's exactly what we are about to do. So we are starting with the primary missions, and then we will go into the secondaries and then talk about the challenger cards. No, excuse me, I will go over the deployment zones after the primary missions, because that makes more sense. So first of all, we're talking about Burden of Trust. So Burden of Trust, let's see if I can... I can't zoom in, unfortunately. Okay, but it should be visible here. Burden of Trust changed, actually. It changed pretty dramatically, but it didn't change what the problem was. So the problem was, with Burden of Trust, the first player always had an advantage. Now they changed it to where the second player always has an advantage. So what does that mean? So first of all, Burden of Trust, you get 4 points for every objective marker outside of your deployment zone, and then in your command phase, you can declare units to be guarding objectives. And if those units successfully control the objective marker at the end of your opponent's turn, you get 2 points for each marker you guarded. So this means you get 2 points for your home objective if you guard it, and you get 4 points for every other objective, and 6 points per objective if you hold it in the midboard and you guard it. Now this has changed because note, the player going second has the first chance to score VP this way, as they can guard objectives in their first turn and score victory points in their opponent's next turn. So you can declare the first guard. Here it is. The top text is how you guard, and they introduced that, and inadvertently now meant that this mission now flipped from the first player having an advantage to now the second player having an advantage, and I don't know how to feel about that. I think Burden of Trust was a bad mission anyway. It is a very low-scoring mission, and it was a primeval feeding ground for secret missions. If I was in a position to win a Burden of Trust game, I usually always took a secret mission instead of trying to play the mission, because you get so few points. If you aggressively trade objectives in midboard back and forth, you have like a primary score of like 8 or something. Like if nobody holds the midboard and everyone just guards the home objective, you just get like 4 2s and that's it. Not a huge fan. I don't like Burden of Trust. Maybe it's better now. I have to play it more often. Hidden Supplies. Now, Hidden Supplies used to be a mission rule. I will be talking about the mission rules being gone later. And basically, the mission that the mission rule, which put an additional objective marker on the board, is now completely gone, and instead you get this, which means you split the objective in the center, which is set on every deployment map, and you pull it into two different directions, 6 inches. Preferably, you pull it into a corner that is not in no man's land, like in Search and Destroy, but usually that isn't possible, and you have to do a roll-off. And this is the part I don't like. I think if you play a mission without a no man's land corner to pull it to, I think you should just pull it to the side. In my opinion, you should just pull it sideways, but that's what I think. And the primary scoring is very similar to Take and Hold, but it is a bit different. So you get 5 victory points if you control one objective marker except your own. You get 5 extra if you control 2 objective markers except your own. And you get 15, so the fifth one, 5 again, if you control more than your opponent. So your home objective doesn't score points by itself, but it does score points in combination with that last point. I think Hidden Supplies is going to be a pretty fun mission. It is not as swingy as it used to be, or like as like boring as it used to be with the Take and Hold version. If you draw Hidden Supplies and you had 6 markers and every marker is worth 5 points without a downside, usually both players would just score a 45 on primary, and then it would just come down to secondary. So I like Hidden Supplies. I think this is a good change. I think the only thing I don't like about it is, as I said, I think there shouldn't be a roll-off where the mission marker goes. It should just always be to the side instead of to the corner. Lynchpin. Lynchpin is completely unchanged. At the end of your command phase, you get 3 victory points for every objective marker outside of your deployment zone, and if you control the objective marker in your deployment zone, you get 2 points extra for every marker outside of deployment. So your home objective is worth 3 points, and every other objective is worth 5 points if you control your home objective. This is a pretty simple mission. People really like it. I think Lynchpin is fun. You do have to batten down, because usually people do go for the home field at some point to just swing the primary back. Because if one player goes for a push and pushes into every no man's land objective but leaves the backline open, you can try to cap it away, and you basically cut 6 points off of the primary score if you do that, which is pretty wild. So yeah, big fan. Lynchpin. No changes needed. Here we have Purge the Foe. I do not think Purge the Foe changed one bit. So at the end of each battle round, you get 4 points if you killed something. And at the end, you get, from the second round onwards, you get 4 points if you killed more than your opponent. So this is the same. And there is also end of command phase or end of the game. You get 4 points for an objective, 1 or more, and you get 4 if you control more than your opponent. So yeah, Purge the Foe is unchanged. Purge the Foe is a mission that really benefits the player going first, especially and it really benefits certain armies with low unit counts like Custodes or Knights over something like Gene Sealer Cults or guard or something. So yeah, Purge the Foe, not a great balanced mission, but I think it existing is kind of a check, because usually those MSU 20 units on the board armies are having a field day with a lot of the missions, because they can just keep contesting primary, and this keeps them honest. The Purge the Foe is a weird mission. It doesn't follow what the other missions do, but I think it should exist, because it does at least put a small damper on those MSU. I don't care about the game, I just want to score armies. Next we have Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth changed a little bit, and the change is basically the objective marker gets burned right away if the action completes. So basically, you get the burn objective action in your shooting phase from the second round onwards. If you control a marker, you can declare to burn it. And then at the end of your opponent's next turn or end of the battle, if your unit is still on the objective and still controls it, that objective is burned and then removed from the battlefield. That happens, and then you get the score for the burn right away. So each time you burn an objective, you get the 5 points for No Man's Land and 10 points for your opponent's marker every time. So the reason why they changed that is because if it was an end of game score, it wouldn't interact well with the new challenger cards they have introduced into the game. So yeah, Scorched Earth, really popular mission. You see this on basically every tournament. It is very good for elite armies because you only have to hold 2 markers for the entire game, to your home objective and one other, to score a 40 on primary. And if you are the second player, this mission also benefits going second. You can always get a turn 5 burn and then get the extra 5 points because you score the burn after you score the last primary. Because it's both happening at the end of your turn, which is at the end of the 5th battle round. So you can stack it in a way where you say you want to complete the primary score first, and then after that you get the burn. So yeah, that is something. So Scorched Earth, really fun mission. I like Scorched Earth. No problems with it. I think going second is a bit too strong. Maybe the end of game burn shouldn't exist, but that's just what I think. Supply drop has changed. Unpopular mission, not commonly seen in mission packs. Start of the battle, players randomly select 2 different objective markers that are not the center. One is the alpha, one the omega, and the alpha disappears at the 4th battle round, and the omega disappears in the 5th battle round. So now the objective in the center is always the last objective that is on the board. You can still lose your objective before your opponent, but it is a bit more fair in terms of which objectives you can actually hold. Because if you roll it out and you roll that the objective on your table side is the one that stays for the entire game, your opponent gets the one that always disappears first, and then the mid board is the one that disappears second. This is so bad for the game. And yeah, you get 5 points for each objective in No Man's Land during turn 2 and 3. You get 8 points during turn 4, and you get 5 points during turn 5. This mission is really rough with the new challenger cards, because if you are the second player, you basically always get to draw challenger cards, and then you get a 15 at the end, while your opponent is just trying to get a lead going, to not lose to the turn 5 15. It is really difficult to play supply drop as a first player, and I'm excited to see how that will work out. Here we go, Take and Hold. Take and Hold is the same, is the one that we know and love. No changes to Take and Hold. Take and Hold is just classic 40k. Nothing bad ever happens on Take and Hold. 5 points for every objective marker at the end of the command phase. Doesn't get any more simple than this. Terraform has changed. Terraform has changed. You can now do a Terraform action in your shooting phase. 1 or more units, each within range of different objective markers outside of your deployment zone. You complete the action at the end of the turn, so right away, and then it is terraformed. You get 4 victory points for each objective you control to a max of 12. And then you get 1 point at the end of the turn for each objective marker that was terraformed. But it no longer says you cannot terraform a terraformed objective. Because you can it says by you. So you can terraform an objective marker your opponent terraformed. So now you can counter terraform your opponent's terraform and take their score away. So this is actually a great fix, because this mission was really unfair if you went second. This mission was so predestined for going first. And especially if you play an aggressive army, you just throw 3 units into the middle, save 3 terraforms, and then you stage a bunch of counter punch melee units behind it, like World Eaters used to do. And if you try to contest the terraform, you get charged and completely clapped. It was really difficult to beat terraform as a second player. So this makes this more fair. I played terraform and it was really fun. I enjoyed my time with terraform a lot. The ritual. The ritual has a big change. So you score 5 points for each objective marker outside of your deployment zone. Excuse me, in no man's land. So you don't score the enemy home marker. And you no longer remove the other 2 objectives outside of the center. Now you have 3 objectives in the center, and you create a new objective marker with an action. So the action finishes end of turn. You would put a new objective marker outside of 12 from one other objective marker and not within 6 of any other objective marker in midboard. Basically, now you have like, if both players make an objective every turn, you can have 13 objectives in no man's land. I don't know if that fits mathematically, but theoretically it could, if it had a wide enough space. So yeah, the ritual with this, ritual was always wacky. I don't think it is competitive with this change, but I also think the ritual was already pretty strange, and you never saw it in tournaments, and I think it is now missing from the tournament pack. So don't take the ritual too seriously, okay? And last but not least, I think, yes, we have Unexploded Ordinance. Unexploded Ordinance didn't change. It is the same thing. You can do an action. You can move an objective marker 6 inches into a direction if you control the objective, and you score points for each objective depending on how close it is to the enemy deployment zone. This mission is not competitive. Nobody runs it in competitive play. Essentially, it is now gone from the mission pack, so you don't have to see it by accident if you go to the Warhammer World Championships. Yeah, it is just, ignore this mission exists. It's also not fun casually, because once one person understands that going first and just kicking all 3 objectives forward gives you an automatic 6 on turn 1, and then it gives you an automatic 15 on turn 2, and then it gives you a 15 on turn 3 and a 15 on turn 4, and because your opponent just kicks it back for 2s and you kick it back for 5s. It's not balanced. Stop thinking about it. It's not a real mission. So that's it. So yeah, basically all of the missions are the same. We have one new mission, which is the supply drop, which used to be a mission rule, because mission rules are gone. There are no more mission rules. They now have these things called twists up here, and twists are not a thing in matched play, so I will not be talking about twists. Here we go, deployment zones. Let's start with deployment zones. These did not change in the slightest. It's the same as the last time we looked through the missions, and I'll talk about that. So here we have Crucible of Battle. This deployment is the diagonal along the long side of the table, and I think it is okay. It is probably the most popular map for competitive Warhammer. I'm not like against Crucible. I'm not a huge fan. I think Crucible is okay. With the invention of measuring sticks, I don't hate measuring the diagonals anymore. All of the objectives are like in the middle, but technically, but you have different percentages of your army in each spot, because you can fit more army into your corner than into this little triangle here. And there's usually a staging spot in one of those ruins you can reach more easily. There's always something going on with the layouts. But yeah, Crucible of Battle, expect to see it a lot. Dawn of War. I love Dawn of War. Everyone else hates Dawn of War. Dawn of War is my favorite deployment. I wish we would play more Dawn of War. Sadly, tournament organizers don't like Dawn of War, so we do not play with it that much. Most people always complain there's too many line of sights on Dawn of War, and it is really difficult to screen your entire backfield because you have this really long deployment zone. The armies are pretty close to each other. You're only 20 inches apart from the line, So there's potential for turn 1 charges, and all of the objectives are in the middle, and you have to play on layout 5 because it's the only layout that is good for Dawn of War, if I remember correctly. So yeah, Dawn of War, you will not see this often, so be prepared for it though, because it can happen. Hammer and Anvil, classic Hammer and Anvil. Hammer and Anvil is the wide Dawn of War basically with long edges. You are 24 inches apart, and you have a lot of space to stay in the back here. However, because it's not as wide, it is easier to screen the backfield, and all of the objectives are in the middle and close to each other. From my experience, Hammer and Anvil with dense terrain features elite armies like knights and custodies because it is really difficult to spread them out. So they can, one unit from this objective right here can easily go onto the objective on the left side in like one turn because it's so close to each other. It's like they're like 24 inches apart. Like it is not difficult. If you're like here, then it's only like 19 inches. Maybe you hold it like this. You have the bulk of the unit here. You move 6, and then you're here, and then you charge here, and you just get there. You can traverse the vertical distance here pretty easily. On light terrain, however, I always feel Hammer and Anvil has a problem. I will talk about that during the terrain formats, but in my opinion, it is really bad to go first on Hammer and Anvil on layout 1 or something, because it is so easy to just shoot your opponent off of these midboard objectives, and then on turn 2, you just you just capture all of them for a swing in primary. Yeah, but you will see Hammer and Anvil frequently at tournaments. Search and Destroy. I hate Search and Destroy. I hate Search and Destroy so much. It is my least favorite deployment. I hate it with every fiber of my being. It is disgusting, and for some reason, it is always played in tournaments. So you gotta deal with it. All of the objectives are symmetrically distributed in each corner of the battlefield, and your armies are 19 inches apart from the line in theory, because if you deploy on this little corner here, and your opponent deploys on this corner, you are actually really close to each other. That's not 18 inches. That is like 10.1 inches or something. You are really close for a turn 1 charge. The reason why I hate Search and Destroy is because your entire 2,000 point army minus reserves has to fit into this little box, and you don't have that much space to hide in. It also says mobile armies like Eldar or like armies with lots of scout. They can just capture the 2 neutral squares and just pincer you in. If your opponent has 3/4 of the board, literally, controlled, and you only have your 1/4, it is really difficult to get ground again. Which is why I liked having my infiltrate units to make a difference in these maps. So yeah, Search and Destroy. You will see this frequently. Going second into a melee army on Search is terrifying, and you have to deal with it. It's not great, but you just have to make it work. I hate it. Usually, this entire part 2, like this line and this line here, are not safe to hide behind because the layouts don't cover like these angles here. This little angle here, or like from this side or something. It is so difficult to hide your army on Search and Destroy. I hate Search and Destroy. Bad deployment. Sweeping Engagement, that's the last... No, nope, there's 2 more. Sweeping Engagement. This is the fixed Dawn of War, basically. You are on the long side. The objectives are closer to one side than one other side, which is good, because that means it is not just a brawl for who can reach the midboard on each marker first. And you have this little like stair area here, this little corner, where the tips of the corners are actually pretty close to each other. They're only let me math it out. It's only like 16 inches apart, so it's really easy to charge from this corner to this corner here. Usually there's terrain in the way though, and stuff happens. So yeah, this is also not very popular for the same reasons Dawn of War is, but people generally like it more because the objective distribution is a bit more reasonable. And last, we have tipping point. This is hammer and anvil, and I think this is fixed hammer and anvil. This looks a bit weird. Did they measure that correctly? That's not a straight line. Am I tripping? This doesn't look like... This doesn't look like a straight line, does it? Am I having an optical illusion thing happen? It doesn't matter. So yeah, the objectives are distributed like this. It is basically hammer and anvil, but you are closer to each other on the corner spots, so you have more interaction on close combat. You have objectives closer to your zone, so you can hold them more easily. And you don't have to screen as much space as you would with a Dawn of War thing. Also, because the objectives are further apart, you can't just go from one to the other in like one swoop. So it is more easily possible to outmaneuver a low model count army like Knights or Custodians. So yeah, tipping point. I like tipping point. Tipping point is fun. And that's all of the deployments. So what did we learn? The deployments are exactly the same as before, and the primary missions are more or less the same as before too, with some minor adjustments. I think this is a good change overall, and we'll see how that actually plays out. Now we go to the secondary missions. Now, the way secondary cards work is exactly the same. You can fix 2 cards which have the fixed rider on them, or you can draw from the tactical deck. The tactical deck now has 19 cards. 1 card has disappeared, and it's called Containment. Containment is no longer with us in the deck, but we have 2 new cards, which we will talk about. So if you play with tactical objectives, you get to draw 2 random cards every turn, and you can discard a card at the beginning of your turn with the New Order stratagem for 1 command point to get a new card, or you can discard a card at the end of any player's turn. Note, this is different from before. And get a new card later on. So you don't get it right away. You get a new card later on if you discard your unscored card at the end of turn. If you discard it at the end of your turn, you get a command point. If you discard it at the end of your opponent's turn, you don't get a command point. But it is really good to get unstuck on things like Defense Stronghold. Like you take Defense Stronghold and your opponent takes your home objective. You can now discard Defense Stronghold, and you can draw a new card while you try to retake the ground you just lost. So that's good. And we're just gonna start with a reoccurring favorite, a Tempting Target. You draw this card, your opponent selects an objective in No Man's Land, and your opponent and you have to get that objective for 5 points at the end of turn. This card is amazing. It used to be in the original mission deck, the one from Leviathan. It was also in the Maelstrom of War deck, the Tempest of War deck from 9th edition. And yeah, Tempting Target is awesome. I love Tempting Target. It is so fun. I just love it. Tempting Target is a great, great mission. Really like it. Recover Assets. Recover Assets has changed. You still do an action on 1, 2, or 3 units, depending on where they are on the board. You have to do one in both deployment zones and the mid-board, or you have 2 out of 3. You have to do 2 out of 3 of these actions. The action now completes at the end of your turn, and you only get 5 points if you do it in all 3. The reason why is because this card was pretty annoying because it lasted during the opponent's turn. So you had to recover assets with 2 units, and if one of them died, you would be stuck with the card. Now you just score the card for 3 points if you have 2 units, and you move on with your life. Note, you cannot fix this, and if you draw this on a 1000 point game, or if you have fewer than 3 units left on the board, you can just draw a new card if you want to. So yeah, recover assets. It's a good secondary. I think if you draw this most of the time, you should get 3 victory points. Assassination. Assassination has changed. So Assassination is a fixed secondary. You can take it fixed instead of tactical. If you draw it in tactical, nothing changed. If you kill a character model, or if all character models are dead, you get 5 victory points. If you fix it, you get 4 points for every character you kill with a 4 or higher wounds characteristic, and you get 3 victory points for characters with less than 4 wounds, so 3, 2, or 1 wound. This is actually a pretty nice change because it gives armies like Genestealer cults a bit of a break because they have so many really cheap characters that are 3 wounds, and not getting full assassinate on them is a really good idea. In my opinion, I think the bar should have been 5 wounds because I think characters like the Death Guard, Virions, or things like a Lieutenant or something, they shouldn't give you the max points. I think characters like Captains or Chaos Lords or something, like something in a Terminator armor, those are actual priority targets, and I think those should give more points. And I would also give an extra point if you kill a character with like 10 or more wounds, like Robute Gilliman or Mortarion or something, like a big character should give like 5 points, or maybe make it the Warlord. If you kill the Warlord, you get 1 extra point. That's actually what I would put into both of these. Calder Horde has changed. If you draw Calder Horde and you can't score it, you can immediately draw a new card. You can fix it, and you can draw it in tactical. You can now no longer overscore it, so no matter how many units you kill in one turn tactically, you only get 5 points. You don't get a 30-point swing if you kill 6 units with 20 models, which happened before. It has happened. And the size has changed. Now it is an infantry unit with 13 or more models, including attached units. So even leaders now count for Calder Horde. That means 10 model units with like 3 wound models no longer count as Calder Horde. Wraith units with Crypto Thralls no longer count for Calder Horde. Things like heavy intercessors with a captain are no longer Calder Horde, which is good and bad. It is good for you because if you play against them, you don't have to dislodge this super tough brick of dudes. But at the same time, it's bad because you can't build it into your list to give your opponent a dead draw. So yeah, this is fixed to combat the idea that somebody could come in with a oops, I just brought 120 Termagants and I just want to move block every objective on the board. Yeah, you get a free 20 off of that because you will kill 80 of those Termagants across the game. I promise you. Good stuff. One thing I have to point out though on fixed, don't get too clever, because the pick secondary type step on the game happens before you declare battle formations. So if your opponent is playing Astra Militarum and they have like a Cadian command squad and 10 Cadians, and usually they put the command squad, Ursula Creed, and the Cadians together to have like a 15 model unit. If they see you pick Calder Horde, they can just not do that. They can just leave the command squad separately, and now you have a fixed secondary you can't score. Basically, yeah, so watch out for that. Next, we have Behind Enemy Lines. No changes on Behind. If you draw it on turn 1, you can redraw it and shuffle it back in. You get 3 points if you're in the enemy deployment zone with a unit and it's not aircraft or battle shocked. And if you have a second unit, you get 4 points. I don't like this. You can fix it, which I like, but I think 2 units should give 5 points. I think throwing away 1 extra unit just to score 1 extra point is just not worth it. I think 2 points would be too cheap. Nobody would ever take it if you only got 2 points for 1 unit, but I think 2 units should be 5. I think it would be completely fair if you said 2 units have to be 5 points. Area Denial. Area Denial did not change. At the end of your turn, if you have a unit that isn't battle shocked within 3 inches of the center and there are no enemy units within 3 of the center, you get 2 points. And if there are no units within 6 of the center, you get 5 points. Careful here, because I see this misplayed a lot in competitive games. Your opponent's units, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if your opponent's unit is OC0, or if it's battle shocked, or if it arrived during the turn with a rapid ingress. Area denial does not care about your opponent's unit. Your unit, as the player wanting to score the card, is not allowed to be battle shocked. Also, aircraft. If your opponent has an aircraft in the center, it still counts for preventing the area denial, just not for scoring it. Bring it down. Bring it down did not change, and that makes me really, really sad. If you draw this and there are no monsters in vehicle on the battlefield, you can discard it and draw a new one. You get 2 points for any vehicle unit, for any vehicle unit. If the unit has 15 or more wounds, you get 4 points. If it has 20 or more wounds, you get 6 points. And tactical, there is a change. Battle Brothers, there is a change. You no longer get the same amount of points if you draw it tactically. Instead, if you kill a vehicle or monster, you get 4 points flat. This is great for 2 reasons. Number one, there used to be games where this was really bad. Your opponents pushed into you with Chaos Knights, and you draw this card and you kill 4 of them in one turn, and you just scored like an 8 off of one secondary. Or if there's like 5 different rhinos at like 2 wounds from like chip damage, and you just kill all 5 of them for a 10 off of one secondary card, you can still score other cards. That is rough. So they got rid of that. And the other flip side of this, where if your opponent only has vehicles that give up 2 wounds at 2 victory points because they're all small, then your opponent, you are always just stuck with a 2-point card. You can score by killing something your opponent has. It felt really bad to go for a turn 1 2-point kill on something. Really bad. So yeah, really happy to have Bring It Down on the fix here. I really wish it said 12 or more, or like 14 or more. I think 15 is the wrong number. Or maybe make it 3 points for each vehicle unit, because the vehicle spam units like Chaos Knights, they're so oppressive. It is so annoying to play against 13 War Dogs, and every War Dog gives 2 points. It's just not worth it. Cleanse. Cleanse got buffed. Cleanse. You do an action within range of up to 2 markers, and you have to use it 1 unit per marker, of course. And you do cleanse. And if you cleanse 1 marker, you get 2 points. And if you cleanse 2 markers, you get 4 points on fixed and 5 on tactical. So yes, you can go fixed on cleanse. It's a fixed objective for 4. And if you draw it tactically, it gives you 5. In my opinion, this makes perfect sense because Secure No Man's Land was just an easier cleanse. Because you still have to control the objective, you still have to do an action on the objective. So basically, Secure No Man's Land was just the better version of Cleanse because you didn't have to do an action, you just had to stand there. So yeah, the fact that it now gives the same points just makes perfect sense. Display of Might. This is a new secondary card. If it is the first battle round, you can draw a new card and shuffle this back in. And at the end of the turn, you get 4 points if you have more units in No Man's Land than your opponent. You can score this on turn 1, of course, because otherwise people with an infiltrating unit just get 4 points for nothing. But I think this is actually a fun secondary because it doesn't reward you for being passive in your deployment, but it also rewards you for doing the math. Because if your opponent has like 5 points in midboard and you have 3 units in midboard, you just have to kill 2 of theirs to make it equal. So that means you have to push 1 unit from your deployment into midboard, and then get 2 kills, and then you score it. I think it's really fun. It also rewards people for getting out of transports to score a card, which I like because transports are really good. Defense Strongholds, nothing changed. If you draw this turn 1, draw a new card and shuffle it back in. If you hold your home objective at the end of your opponent's turn, you get 3 victory points. This is a really good secondary. 3 points is exactly what you want from an objective that is easy to do. The only times you don't score Defense Stronghold is if you made a mistake or you are losing the game. Engaged of all fronts is fixed. If you have 1 or more units Uh, excuse me, what is this center thing? Oh yeah, okay, it's just the explanation text. So yeah, so you have a presence in each table quarter for as long as you are not battle shocked aircraft and not wholly within 6 of the midboard, and also not in two quarters at the same time. So if your unit is outside of 6 in the middle, not battle shocked, not an airplane, and it's in one corner, it counts, so, just like before. It's the same on two things. If you have 3 quarters, you get 2 points. If you have 4 quarters, you get 4 points. But now you get 1 point if you have presence in 2 quarters. This is interesting to know because, very, very importantly, if you draw this card and you have your own 2 quarters because you are deploying in it, you cannot discard engage on all fronts at the end of turn for a command point because you have to score it. You are now scoring 1 point unless you are moving all of your units out of that second quarter. So if you draw this, you better go for the free, or you just accept the fact that you scored 1 point. I think this makes this more appealing for fixed, because getting turn 1 engaged outside of Search and Destroy or Crucible is actually pretty difficult. So I do think engage is a fun fixed secondary. But drawing it as a card, even though if you are losing, you can still get a point. But I think it is more important to actually, how do you say it? To discard cards for victory points. So yeah, the option to not score this are actually bad for you. So what else do we have? We got the next card. Establish Locus. No changes on Establish Locus. You do an action in your shooting phase with 1 unit within 6 of the midboard, not wholly within, or your opponent's deployment zone. If you do the Locus in the middle, you get a 2. If you do it in your opponent's deployment, you get a 4. You can fix this, so you can always get a 2 or 4, depending on where you are. Yeah, Establish Locus. It's not worth it as a fixed usually, since it only gives 2 in the middle, and getting into your opponent's deployment before turn 3 or 4 is pretty difficult. So yeah, but as a tactical card, it's fine. I don't like drawing it turn 1 because you have to sacrifice a unit to get like a minimal score or something. But yeah, it's fine. You can discard it, which I like. Extend Battle Lines got nerfed. One of the easiest secondaries in the deck. If you draw it at the end of your turn, if you control one objective in No Man's Land and your home objective, you could get 4 points. But if you control one or more objectives in No Man's Land and not your home objective, you get 2. So they removed this whole part where, in order to get the 2 points, you could only have 1 unit left alive on the table, which is like the pity points or something. But instead, you now get 2 points if you don't control the home. So this card is now easier to score because now you can't fail it even without the home objective, but it was changed from 5 to 4. So holding the easiest objectives on the board is no longer a 5-point swing. So yeah, Extend, still excellent card, but a bit weaker than before. Marked for Death is actually really, really fun. It was the worst secondary in the game. It was basically a dead draw until turn 4 or 5, and it sucked. It was so bad. Now, if you draw a Marked for Death, your opponent selects 3 units on the battlefield, and they become alpha targets. This is basically the same thing as before. Then you select 1 unit to be a gamma target. If there are no units on the board, you can discard it and draw something new. But by that point, you should have won, probably. So yeah, if you kill an alpha target, you get 5 points. But if you don't kill an alpha target, but you kill the gamma target, you get 2 points, which I actually really like. You don't have to kill the units, though. It also applies to units that leave the battlefield. So if there is something like Grey Knights, which go up, down, and they have marked themselves, or you mark something that wants to go up, down, with the gamma, you still get the points. So I like this. This is a really good change from Marked for Death, because now it is just a 2 victory point card. which you sometimes just discard because you don't want to kill it anyway, and you just want the command point. But sometimes you just take the 2 points, move on with your life, and once in every 10 games you draw it on turn 5 and you just score 5 points. Good for you. Then we have No Prisoners. No Prisoners is pretty spicy here. It says fixed on the card. Ignore that entire line of text because it is not applicable anymore. You cannot fix No Prisoners. We will talk about it later. So if you draw it and you kill a unit, you get 2 points, and you get, yeah, and it stacks up to 5 points. So if you kill 3 units, you get the maximum 5 points. Yeah, No Prisoners is a good card. Usually you draw it turn 1 and you are really sad, but if you draw it between turn 2 and 5, it's usually between 2 and 5 points, depending on the board state. If you play with Indirect Fire, you can score it on turn 1. So yeah, good card. No Prisoners is a good card. Overwhelming Force. I got a clarification. So if you have a leader and a bodyguard unit, it now counts as 2 units killed, so it scores the max points. It always worked like that, but it's just what it is. Yeah. It always worked like that, but now it is clarified on the card. So, Overwhelming Force, while it is active, if you kill a unit on an objective, you score 3 points, and if you kill 2 of them, you score 5 points. So kill 1 leader unit or 2 separate units and score points. Overwhelming Force is a good card, but you don't want to see it on the first turn. Sabotage did not change. So this is the only action that now lasts until the end of your opponent's turn. So this is the one where you have to stay alive. You have to touch a terrain feature outside of your deployment zone. And if you complete the action, you get 3 points. And if you completed the action in your opponent's deployment zone, you get 6 points. And note, if you leave the objective, if you leave the terrain feature, because the one model you lost to shooting was the one you exposed to put on the building, you still scored. The important part is you don't die until the objective is scored. So that's the good thing. And I think that's the last one. No, there's 2 more. No, there's one more. So here we have Secure No Man's Land. This is the best card in the deck. If you control 1 objective in No Man's Land, you get 2 points. If you score 2 objectives in No Man's Land, you get 5 points. Secure No Man's Land, good card. You always want to see it turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Maybe not 5, but it's still fine on 5. You still get a 2 usually, unless you're like Giga losing the game. Yeah. Secure No Man's Land, good card. I think maybe it should just be 4 points because it's so easy to score, but that's what it is. And last but not least, because Tempting Target we talked about, we have Storm Hostile Objective. When drawn on the first turn, you can draw a new card and shuffle it back in, so it's optional, you don't have to. If you control an objective your opponent controlled for 4 points, you get the 4 points. And if your opponents didn't control a single objective from turn 2 onwards, you get 4 points. And you control 1 more than before. So, yeah. Storm Hostile can be fixed. I have never seen it successfully pulled off as a fixed objective, because if your opponent picks Storm Hostile as a fixed secondary, all you do every turn of the game is you put a... How do you say it? You put a equal amount of OC on every marker as your opponent has. And then your opponent doesn't score primary, and the objectives are not controlled by you. So they're not hostile, which means your opponent can't get the 4 points for making it his again. So yeah, this is the bad one. It's still a good card. Usually, if you draw it on turn 1, you just put it back in the deck unless you're going second. If you draw it on turn 2 to 5, you should usually be able to score it. And 4 points is a very good number for a secondary card. I like this. And that's the secondaries. So, the new cards are a Display of Might and Attempting Target, and we lost Containment. However, I do not think that is bad, because Containment was usually a pretty easy to score 6-point card. I wasn't a huge fan of containment, to be honest. It was really unfair on turn 1. It was really useless sometimes if you're in the middle of a fight and you don't have time to do actions, but yeah, containment is gone. I really like Tempting Target. I'm glad it's back in. Secondaries get a thumbs up. I wish Bring It Down would give more points for small vehicles. So next, here we go. Secondary missions. Here we go. Challenger cards. So let's talk about challenger cards. How they work. Here's how they work. Challenger cards work like this. At the beginning of the battle round, if one player is 6 points or more behind on score, this counts for secondary and primary put together. So 6 points in any direction behind means you get a challenger card if you are the player. And these cards are a 0 command point stratagem that cannot be duplicated or free stratted or made more expensive in any way. Or it is a little mission that rewards you with extra points. This is the new comeback mechanic, and it completely replaces secret missions or gambits. So no more secret missions, you don't have to run battle line anymore to prevent war of attrition or something. No more, what was it called? Unbroken Wall, nothing. Secret missions are gone and replaced with this. The first one, there's 9 challenger cards, and both players draw from the same challenger deck. So if you drew this one, Pivotal Moment, you can just draw, your opponent can't draw a Pivotal Moment. So, what happens? If you kill a unit, you get 3 points. And those are challenger points. They count for secondary or primary. It is your choice. They are separately scored. You can add them to any score. So if you are maxed on secondary and you get a 3 point off of challenger, you can still score 3 points. You just can't score more than 90 in total. So if you somehow manage to score 50 on primary and 40 on secondary and 1 challenger card, you don't get the 3 points. But I feel like that wouldn't be possible to do. So yeah, the mission is attrition. You get 3 points if you kill a unit. It doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter how. Just kill anything for 3 points. Alternatively, you can use the stratagem. So if you use the stratagem, you cannot score the mission. You can get Pivotal Moment. In your movement phase, 1 unit from your army has the ability to fall back, shoot, advance, and charge, basically. It can do whatever it wants. It gets Tactical Doctrine. This is pretty nuts. This is honestly really strong. This can really flip a game on its head, especially if you play against an army that normally doesn't fall back and shoot, like Astra Militarum. If a Rogel Dorn tank commander can fall back and shoot, this might actually ruin the turn for you. So, pretty strong. Next, we have Dugen. You get in 1 victory point for each objective you control to a max of 3 points. It counts your home objective, so pretty easy to do. 3 point swing, maybe 2 points. Depends. Alternatively, you have Harbored Power. In the shooting or fight phase, you can select 1 unit that has not shot or fought this turn. And all of the weapons in that unit's all weapons in that unit gain hazardous and then either lethal hits or sustained hits. So basically you get Dark Pact for 1 unit. I think both of these are not that impressive. Like, it's fine, obviously. If you have a crit 5 model that doesn't have both, which is rare, probably you can use this as like a small damage buff to flip something. You can try to kill yourself, your own unit, with the hazardous if you have to for some reason. Maybe you have to. Maybe you are stuck in a no fallback aura with like 1 model, and you just have to die somehow, and you just pull up hazardous and you shoot a bolt pistol and then hope you die. Maybe that play saves you the game. But normally you use it as a damage buff, or you just go onto 3 different objectives and you score 3 points. Establish comms. 1 unit from your army that is 15 inches away from all other units of your army, score 3 victory points. This should be easy to do. It's easier to do on a large map rather than a small map, and obviously if you have fewer units than like a horde army or something, this is easier to pull off. 15 inches is a lot of distance, but you should be able to engineer this for 3 points. Alternatively, renewed focus. During shooting or fight phase, you can give a unit reroll hits and wounds of 1. This is a great card. If I ever draw this and put this on Gilliman, I'm feeling like it's 9th edition again. I would be so happy to put this on Gilliman. Would be really fun. It's good. I think both of these are pretty good. I don't think either of these is like unfair. Focused effort. If 2 units make attacks against the same unit and they do at least 1 damage in total, not each of them, you get 3 points. This is pretty weird because you can just score this. Like, imagine you have a lancer set up against a rhino on like 1 wound or something. Let's say 2 wounds to make this more simple. You shoot one of your scouts' bolt pistols at the rhino first. It misses. Cool. Doesn't matter. You made an attack, and now the lancer blows up the rhino, and you get 3 points. That's pretty good. However, what is actually really good is burst of speed. End of your shooting phase, you can move a unit that shot. Excuse me. A unit that didn't move in the shooting phase, it can make a normal move of up to d6 and then not move again. So you get a fire and fate that lets you charge. It doesn't say you can't charge. I think it really should say you can't charge. So yeah, you get a fire and fate for 1 unit. This is honestly pretty good. I don't think you actually use this as a fire and fate, and you use this to flip an objective. I think this is actually how you use this most of the time. Next one, over the line. If you have a unit in your opponent's deployment zone, not wholly within, you get 3 points. So you just get an extra behind enemy lines that is easier to do. Or Great Haste. 1 unit that has not moved yet, it moves an additional d6 inches. This is a horrible mistake. This is completely game-breaking because you can still advance and charge. This is a wild rule. And it obviously scales up with how fast your units are. An Emperor's Children Demon Prince can move like 26 inches if you roll double sixes. If you boxcar, you can move 26 and still charge 12. It is completely crazy. Yeah, Great Haste is broken, and over the line is actually not that easy to score, so you usually go for it, probably. You usually take the Great Haste. Pretty tough. Challenger mission. Secure extraction zone. 1 unit from your army, not within your deployment zone, but wholly within 9 of a battlefield edge. So basically a containment. You get half of a containment for 3 points. There it is. Secure extraction zone. It's now an action. Or for 0 CP, force a breach. You can move through walls or models. With a normal or advanced move. So you can fall back. You can't fall back through units, but you can normal move or advance through units. So if your opponent move blocks you and you are behind on 6 points and you rip this card, you can now suddenly just completely ignore what they tried to do. That's pretty rough. Self-preservation. Your shooting phase, a unit that is more than 18 inches away from all enemy units, 3 points. So similar to the other one we had for 15 inches to your units, 3 points for 1 action. Pretty easy to do. This one is pretty good. All in. Your fight phase, 1 unit that has not fought can now pile in and consolidate 6 instead of 3, and they don't need closer to the closest enemy model as long as they get closer to the closest enemy unit. So you get a 6-inch pile in consolidate that allows you to bend the distance a bit. This can be a devastating play when it comes up. It's really strong whenever it comes up, but even if it doesn't come up, the 3 points to score are pretty easy to score. Challenger mission. So Chaos. Destroy two models from. Destroy one model from two or more units. So if you kill two models from at least two different units, you get 3 points. This is obviously difficult to do against knights, but it is really easy to do against Eldar. That's basically what it boils down to. However, opportunistic strike, your shooting phase, it's basically a grenade. It's a 6-inch grenade. You can do for free. You can advance. It doesn't say you can't. You don't have to be eligible to shoot. You can fall back. Pretty good. I think this is actually pretty good. Yeah, Challenger mission. This one is one of the better ones. Zone Defense. I drew this one. I remember it. You can zone defense. You get 1 point to a maximum of 3 for each of the following conditions. You have a unit that isn't battle shocked in your deployment zone, within 6 of the center, in no man's land, and in the enemy deployment zone. I think this should be a secondary card. I think this is a really cool design. I think this should be a secondary card. This reminds me of the old Oath of Moment, the one that was the secondary card, not the rerolls we have now. The secondary card, which was Oath of Moment, which gave points on conditions. This reminds me a lot of the old Oath of Moment card. I think this one is actually. This one is super cool. I wish this was a secondary. I really like this one. It's really fun. Obviously, you would cut the deployment zone part for yours, but I think the other one is fine. Maybe make it a No Man's Land objective instead of just No Man's Land. But yeah, I think I like this one. I think they should repurpose this for the next deck. Alternatively, you can use Strategic Retreat. Start of your shooting phase. Select one unit that is not a vehicle or monster, not within engagement range of an enemy unit, and you can put it into strategic reserves. Weird timing, it is your shooting phase. So if it is turn 5 and you draw this challenger card, you can't do anything with the unit you just pull up into reserve. So this is a bit strange. I think the timing is really weird. It should at least be like in the command phase, so you can steal a primary or something. I don't know. So yeah, I think Strategic Retreat is pretty weak, but I think Zone Defense should always score you a 2. And it probably scores you a 3, because the deployment zone and No Man's Land are pretty easy to do, and 6-inch of the center or one deployment zone, one of these two you might do. Like, it's not impossible. Then we have, and that's it. That's all 9 Challenger cards. So, what is my opinion on the Challenger cards? I played games with them, and I am very torn. I think, as they are right now, they are a terrible idea. So, here's the number one problem. You are punished for winning the game. And you are not punished by winning the game for a lot. If you are behind, getting a catch-up mechanic that makes the game closer is not like a terrible idea. They tried to do it with the secret missions and the gambits, and this one is a mission you have to interact with. You can't just ignore the secret missions, because unless your opponent goes on a secret mission, you never see these, ever. But this you have to interact with every point of the game. You also have to track the score at the end of every turn, which is annoying if you don't play on an app, but it is also honestly good, because if you know what the game state is and how much you are behind or ahead, that is actually important for how you should play the game. So yeah, I think this is a good thing overall, but it is annoying, to be completely transparent. It is annoying. I think 6 victory points is the wrong number. I think it is too easy to be behind on 6 points. Because the difference between 6 points or not is you drew Sabotage and Assassinate on turn 1. You discard Assassinate and you score Sabotage later. And your opponent drew Secure No Man's Land and Extend Battle Lines. Your opponent scored 9 points on turn 1. You scored 3 points on turn 1. And now you're 6 points behind, but you might be in a position to score a 10 for primary, and then you give your opponent a 0 for primary. It is really strange how this works. So I think 6 is the wrong number. I think it should be 10. One other thing, I think the stratagems are way too strong. I think the stratagems, partially, I think the everything that gives extra move or interacts with moving in any way is too much. I think the free grenade and the damage buffs are like completely fine. I would just make lethal hits and sustained hits two separate cards, and then get rid of the hazardous part, and it would be okay. I don't think it is that big of a problem. But the ones that increase movement are nuts. So, what are my experiences with secret missions? Excuse me, with challenger cards. So I played 5 games, and in the first game, we drew 2 cards. My opponent got both of them because I was leading for most of the game. On top, I was the first player, I was leading. That was probably like the intended way challenger cards should play out. My opponent drew, I think he drew the one, where is it? This one. He drew zone defense and scored a 3. And then on the last turn of the game, he drew Great Haste. And he managed to use Great Haste to move a War Dog with an advance like 22 inches and steal an objective to make essentially a. There was also a secondary, so it was like a 9-point swing off of this one move that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. I still won the game, but it was, instead of winning by 9 points, I won by like 2 points or something. It was so close. It was really close, and it could have stolen the game if anything happened in a different way. Something like that. Um, the second game, I got to draw one card at the end, which was the one that lets you up down the. Which one was it? This one, Strategic Retreat. I drew that on turn 5, and I couldn't use it because it was turn 5. So I did the zone defense, and I scored, I think, all 3 of these for 3 points, which was fine. But what actually was the problem, because I was the second player, but in the way the game worked out, I was ahead on score, but I was behind on the board. And this is what I mean by 6 points is not enough. Basically, it was turn 4, and a Chaos Space Marine army was staged up to just table me, basically. I had almost nothing left. I was basically killed off of the midboard in like one turn. And in that turn, when it happens, my opponent just got a challenger card, even though I was about to be killed off the table. Because 6 points behind. I think this is just weird design. That shouldn't happen. What happened next? The third game, it was like fine. Like, we saw 2 challenger cards. I think none of them did anything. I won the game. I think my opponent scored 5 points off of them. I don't even remember what it was. Yeah, it was easy to do to get the challenger cards. So it was a 6 or 5 point swing. I don't quite remember, but yeah, it didn't change the outcome too much. The fourth game, the game was really close. It was a Scorched Earth game in which nobody went on any burning objectives until turn 5. So nobody was ever ahead by more than 2 or 3 points until in the last turn when I lost the game. That one didn't have a challenger card at all. We saw 0 of them. Not a single one. So that was that. And then on the fifth game, my opponent was behind and lost the game, but lost it closer because my opponent drew 2 in total, 2 challenger cards on 4 and 5, and they did actually. One of them allowed my opponent to cap a primary for 5, and the other one scored 3 points. So it made an 8-point difference, which made the game. I think I won the game by 12. So I would have won the game by 20 without it. But in the end, they didn't change the outcome. So what is the overall sentiment here? I think most of the time, the challenger cards work as intended, where they give you a chance to come back, but it doesn't work. However, there was that one scenario that is just in my head now, in which I am losing on board and my opponent gets to draw one of these. And it is rough. And one worry I have is if we go back to the secondaries, because let's look at a fixed objective like Assassinate. If you pick Assassinate and let's say bring it down and you play against an army full of monsters, which are also characters like demons, you pick both of these fixed. Your opponent starts to play passively. They back off. They don't go on the mid board unless to contest with like trash, and they try to not expose any of their big monsters to damage. So they deny you the assassinate points and the bring it down points. If that happens and your opponent scores any amount of secondary, you now score primary, and you get to draw challenger cards because your opponent is just ahead on secondary until on turn 5 when you do the final push and you just kill like half of their stuff. You just get all of the points in one swing because it's fixed, and you also get all of the challenger card points on the way there. So the challenger card points are a way to mitigate the secondary loss on fixed objectives, which could be a problem. I have not put it into practice myself because maybe Space Marines are the wrong faction for that, but I think this is something you should look at. So, challenger cards. I think it should be 10 points, not 6. And I would go with that. Maybe one of them has to get removed from the deck, which is the one that is the 6-inch extra move. Maybe that one just has to go. But other than that, I think in practice they did work as intended. So I'm curious to see how it plays out in a tournament. So that was all of the things I will talk about the deck. Now there are the twists, but the twists are not used in competitive play. Same with the deployment zones that are asymmetric, because they are also not used in competitive games. I will not talk about these here. If you want to have a little review for all of the fun non-competitive rules, write me a comment. If you want to have some impressions and games with the asymmetric terrain and the twists, then write me a comment and I will probably oblige if you really want to see that. Anyway, let's go to the Warhammer Tournament Companion for Chapter Approved, which is now just the name. It doesn't say Pariah Nexus, it's just now called Chapter Approved. I think that's what I'm just gonna call it. So, here we go. The sequences, everything is the same, basically, on this. The sequence is the same, how you deploy the armies, how you do the create battlefield. And here we have the thing... Yeah, select secondaries is 7, and declare battle is 8. So you can screw over a Calder Horde player if you do this correctly, which is pretty funny. Yeah, fixed secondary is the one with the icon of fixed. There are no changes on reserves or anything except for, of course, on secondaries. If you play tactical, you can now discard cards at the end of your opponent's turn, but you don't get a command point. And that's how it is. Wait. Oh, it's this one. Excuse me. This one right here. Yeah, if you scored 1 or more VP, you discard it. So you cannot discard a card you did score. That doesn't work. But you can discard 1 for 1 CP. And then... No, wait. Where is it? At the end of each player's turn, this is the sentence. Do the following. At the end, you can discard 1 card, 1 or more, and you gain a CP, but if you are the active player. Wait, no, is that the thing? Yeah, it is somewhere in here. Of course, yeah. So, here we go. We have the victory points, and here it says the challenger cards, you can just put them wherever. You would just put them into the 90 points at some point, yeah. So it is 50, 40, 12, and you just go to a total of 90. That's how it works. Here it says, again, on the deployment stuff, this is attacker, defender, no man's land, the center, objective markers, edges, and stuff. All of this. The actions. Something changed about actions. If a unit starts to perform an action, until that action is completed or the end of the turn, that unit is not eligible to shoot or charge, and it cannot perform. What is it? If a unit performs a move, the action cannot be completed, so you can still make a reactive move to cancel the action if you say it, but you can no longer overwatch if you are sabotaging. If your action takes a full turn, a full battle round, you can no longer overwatch, because if you can't shoot while you declare an action. You also can't heroic after you declare an action, because it's just not allowed. You cannot charge or shoot. You can make a reaction move, but which cancels the action, but you can't say, I will just not score this and do the heroic. Doesn't work anymore. The mission deck. We have a bunch of FAQs. I think most of these are just not that important. Yeah, the burden of trust. The player going first can score VP guarding on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the player going second can score on. No, that is the old one, because they changed how the guarding works. They didn't whatever. Doesn't matter. You can terraform something that has been terraformed. Amendments for the cards. No prisoners can no longer be fixed in tournament play. So the dreams are dead. I was the first one to say, take your Desolation Marines in every list now and just pick no prisoners fixed, and you just get an automatic 10 every game, because you will kill 1 unit per turn with your Desolation Marines every single time. Good stuff. Alright, now let's talk about all of the layouts, and I will scroll down before we talk about the missions, because this is important. So here's layout 1. Oh, I will zoom out for a second. Here we have layout 1. Layout 1 is unchanged. It is probably one of the more fair boards. It is in equal parts open, because you can shoot like here. You can shoot into the center from here and stuff, but you can't just shoot everywhere, especially because of the little ones over here, like the little boxes here. Can't shoot there. So yeah, layout 1, pretty fair layout. Layout 2, also the same. It is also kind of fair, but I think shooting is better, because if the objectives are like here, here, and here, like on Crucible, you can just put your big shooting unit here and you just shoot the entire table length down that hallway. In both, the mid board is a bit vulnerable, because you usually can't hold the objective in the center from the wall. Doesn't work. Layout 3, completely the same. I don't know when I last played on layout 3. I don't even remember when I last played on it. I think this is mostly a sweeping engagement layout, because it works out. Like, if here's your big zone, you can deploy in here, and if here's your small zone, you can still deploy behind this. Might be a Dawn of War map, but I thought layout 5 was the Dawn of War map. Yeah, layout 4. No changes. Again, I haven't played layout 4 in a hot minute. Yeah, layout 4 on Hammer and Anvil is super annoying, actually, because you have to deploy your stuff on these stupid things. I like it on Crucible if you have Infiltrate, because you can move into this little pocket. But you are able to walk here and then shoot down. So, and the center is very open. Layout 5. This is the Dawn of War map. This is what we got. If there's an objective here, you can hold it from, I think it's like 6, 12. It's like here. So you should be able to hold it from this wall. The midboard is open, and then in your deployment you have these 2 pieces to hide behind this little one, and then whatever angle you can cut on this one. Layout 6 is the same. Layout 6 is actually cool. I like layout 6. Layout 6 is fun. Yeah, it is the search and destroy layout, ironically, which I do not like, but yeah, layout 6 is fun. It is probably one of the most well suited for this deployment, because you can deploy behind here, you can deploy behind this wall. You have this little thing here. It's also a Crucible map, if I'm not completely wrong here. And on Crucible, you can just hide a lot of stuff. So, yeah, that's what it is. Layout 6. Layout 7 changed. What happened? These two ruins were moved a bit further in, and those two ruins no longer touch the edges. That means this board is now a lot more viable to play a shooting army on, because as it was just impossible to get something out of this building or anything behind this objective, because there was nothing you can do from this. Now, this corridor only exists to make sure, hey, don't deploy your entire army in this little space here and get shot by it. Really bad. And layout 8 changed. They basically just moved the 4 things from the center. Layout 8 was weird because it had this weird unshootable quarter of like 4 boxes deployed in these like positions here, and you basically couldn't draw a line of sight through the midboard in any way, shape, or form. I think they changed this because they kept this one, basically. They kept this one at the edge here, so they kept the bad part of layout 7, which is this touching part here. But they added these 2 boxes in like a line instead of the 4 things. Now, my theory on layout 8 is that people were too stupid to set it up, because putting the 4 diagonal boxes into the middle and then measuring out like 23.5 inches for one core, it took forever to do it. It was annoying. So yeah, I don't think you will see layout 8 that often. I think it's kind of a bad layout, but it's not the worst. It is hilariously bad on Teams now, because if you play Dawn of War on like Teams format, you can see like through that entire corridor, and you can't hide in this building fully because the walls don't touch the back end of the base. Ugh, that is a rough one. So yeah, here we go. And then we talk about the missions. Now, the mission pack. So overall, the layouts didn't change too much. I think that's fine. I like Games Workshop layouts more than say the WTC or something. So this is fun. Okay, we have a lot of missions. So it's 23 different missions. Is that correct? 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, 20 missions. Excuse me. 20 missions. Okay. Yeah, so we have 4 tipping points, 4 hammer and anvil, 4 search and destroys, 4 crucibles, 2 sweeping, and 2 dawn of war. And as you can see, the ritual and unexploded ordinance are completely gone. Now, I will not talk in depth about any of these because this would take a long time. Just this is the main thing I wanted to mention. Dawn of War, only layout 5, sweeping engagement on 5 and 3, as I said. And then we have a bunch of the square and long corner deployments here with a lot of things. One I wanted to highlight, which I think is problematic, is actually taken hold on hammer and anvil on layout 1. I think that one is rough, because on 7 and 8, excuse me, scroll down too far. Scroll down really far. I will talk about what this is in a second, but here we go. Layout 7. I think on layout 7, hammer and anvil works because you can hide from... You can hold an objective and hide behind a wall, so it works a bit better for staging. And on layout 8, it works a lot better for hammer and anvil. Though layout 8 is a bit flawed. But layout 1, this is the scenario I was describing earlier on Taken Hold. I think the ability, you can just shoot your opponent off of these 3 objectives so easily. And it makes going second on layout 1 hammer and anvil so difficult. Yeah, I think this is one of the missions that I think is a bit problematic. But yeah, if you want to see more of these missions, go to any tournament. I bet you will see them. yeah, lots of Taken Hold, lot of Terraform, not that many supply drops. I think there's only 2 now because oh no, there's 3. Okay, never mind then. So yeah, those are the missions. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, because I give a thumbs up here, is the base chart. Every faction now has a base chart that tells you what base your models go on. This is great to have because now you don't have to check the Warhammer store. You don't have to check the incorrect information on what would you say on Wahapedia. You can just look it up. Note some of these are wrong. I think the Hive Tyrant stands out as something that is just incorrect, but overall, this is a really good thing to have. It will get fixed if there's something missing or something incorrect, but this is just a massive step because what bases are the models for any purposes you want, for 3D prints, for conversions, for stand-ins, for whatever you want. Now you can just check, oh cool, a Rhino doesn't have a base, cool, I can just put the Rhino down, and that's it. Yeah, bikes now have the oval base, so you can't use the round bases anymore to get like 3 pivots or something. It is what it is. So with that said, that was my review for Chapter Approved, the new mission deck and mission series. If you want to discuss the new rules and the new missions with me, join the Ultramarine Discord and give me a tag, say hello to me. I will be happy about any comment you people write to me. And with that said, courage and honor, Battle Brothers. We march for McCraig.